The road to this moment has been anything but smooth. If we look back at the history of the Fast and Furious franchise, the tension behind the scenes often rivaled the explosions on screen. For a long time, it felt like the fans were the ones losing out because the stars couldn't get on the same page. But something shifted behind the scenes recently. Universal Pictures realized that to make the grand finale of this franchise work, they needed their heavy hitters back. This brings us to the massive project slated for 2026. This film is being designed as a connective tissue movie. It isn't just a side story anymore. In the past, Hobbs and Shaw felt like its own universe, almost like a superhero movie with tech implants and secret organizations. But the 2026 film is bringing things back to the asphalt. The story picks up exactly where the chaos of Fast X left off. We all remember that mid-credits scene where Jason Momoa's character Dante calls Hobbs and tells him, "I'm coming for you." That wasn't just a teaser, it was a promise. The 2026 film is the fulfillment of that promise. However, the writers realized that Hobbs alone isn't enough to stop a madman like Dante. He needs someone who thinks like a criminal, someone who moves in the shadows, and someone who has a personal grudge against anyone who threatens the family name. That is where Deckard Shaw comes back into the fold. The chemistry between Johnson and Statham is the primary engine of this script. The frenemy dynamic is being dialed up to an 11. In this new script, the scale is global, but the stakes are personal. We are seeing production rumors suggest filming locations spanning from the rugged islands of Samoa to the high-tech streets of London. The vision for 2026 is to blend the street racing roots of the early films with the massive, world-ending stakes of the later ones. What makes this section of the saga so interesting is the creative shift. The studio has brought back legacy writers to ensure that the dialogue feels authentic to the characters. They want the insults between Hobbs and Shaw to feel fresh, not recycled. They are also focusing heavily on practical stunts again. After some fans complained that the series was becoming too much like a cartoon, the 2026 production is leaning back into real cars, real crashes, and real fistfights. This section of the movie also has to address the timeline. We know that Fast 11 is the supposed end of the main road, but this Hobbs-led project acts as the bridge to the end. It is essentially Fast 10.5. Without the events of this movie, the final chapter won't make sense. That gives this film a level of importance that the first Hobbs and Shaw didn't have. Back in 2019, you could skip the spin-off and still understand the main movies. In 2026, that is no longer the case. You have to see how these two reconcile their past to protect their future. The script focuses heavily on the idea of the hunted becoming the hunter. For the first time, Hobbs and Shaw are not the ones chasing a criminal. They are being hunted by a ghost from their past who has infinite resources and a twisted sense of humor. This shift in tone makes the 2026 project feel more like a survival thriller than a standard action movie, which is exactly what the franchise needs to stay relevant after 2 decades on the big screen. As we look deeper into the 2026 script, the biggest change from the first spin-off is the arrival of a villain who actually scares our heroes. In the first Hobbs and Shaw, they fought a super soldier who was basically a human tank. But in this new chapter, they are facing Dante Reyes, played by Jason Momoa. Dante isn't just a guy with a gun. He is a master of psychological warfare. The script for this section focuses on how Dante manages to do the impossible. He finds a way to get under the skin of Luke Hobbs. We are used to seeing Hobbs as a man of stone who never flinches, but the 2026 storyline shows him vulnerable. Dante starts targeting the people Hobbs loves most, specifically his daughter and his family in Samoa. This high-stakes pressure is what forces Hobbs to reach out to Deckard Shaw, even though they promised they would never work together again. The dynamic between the two leads in this section is much more serious than the constant bickering we saw in the past. While they still trade insults, there is an underlying sense of respect because they both know how dangerous Dante is. The script details a massive sequence where Dante hacks into the global God's Eye system to track Hobbs and Shaw simultaneously in different parts of the world. This forces the duo to go off the grid. They have to ditch their high-tech gadgets and go back to basics. This is a huge win for fans of the older movies because it means more focus on raw driving skills and hand-to-hand combat rather than drones and lasers. The writers are calling this the dark chapter of the Hobbs and Shaw journey. It's about two men who are used to being the predators suddenly realizing they are the prey. Another major part of this section involves Deckard Shaw's own family ties. We know that the Shaw family has a long, dark history with the agency and various criminal empires. The 2026 script hints that Dante might actually have a connection to a past mission that both Hobbs and Shaw worked on separately years ago. This retcon or backstory adjustment makes the fight personal for everyone. It's not just about a job anymore. It's about a debt that has to be paid in blood. The action set pieces in this part of the movie are described as being gritty and grounded. One specific scene mentioned in production leaks involves a high-speed chase through the narrow, crowded streets of a European city where the duo has to use classic muscle cars to outrun armored police vehicles that Dante has hijacked. The section wraps up by setting the stage for a massive confrontation. Hobbs and Shaw realize that they cannot win this fight by following the law. To beat a monster like Dante, they have to be willing to cross lines they've never crossed before. This leads to a secret meeting with some old friends from the Fast family, though the script is keeping the exact cameos very quiet for now. The goal is to make the audience feel the weight of the situation. This isn't just a fun side adventure, it is a fight for survival that will determine who makes it to the final movie of the franchise. The tension is at an all-time high, and by the end of this act, the Fast and Furious world as we know it is changed forever, because the villains finally have the upper hand. This part of the script takes us away from the personal vendettas and looks at the bigger, scarier picture of the 2026 landscape. While Dante Reyes is the face of the chaos, there is a much larger shadow looming over our heroes, the return of Eteon. If you remember from the first spin-off, Eteon was the secret high-tech organization that wanted to evolve humanity through a virus. In this new script, we find out that Eteon didn't just disappear, they've been waiting for the right moment to strike. The script reveals that Dante might actually be using Eteon's technology to fuel his revenge. This creates a terrifying combination. A man who is completely insane, paired with technology that is 20 years ahead of the rest of the world. The action shifts to a secret facility in the mountains where Hobbs and Shaw have to go undercover. This isn't just about driving fast cars. It's a high-stakes heist. The duo has to steal back a piece of tech that Dante has stolen, which could effectively shut down the world's power grid. In this section, the script focuses on the contrast between the two men. Hobbs uses his massive strength to smash through defenses, while Shaw uses his special forces training to slip through undetected. The dialogue here highlights how much they've learned from each other over the years. Hobbs is starting to think more like a spy, and Shaw is starting to appreciate the brute force method when things go wrong. A major plot twist in this section involves the character of Hattie Shaw, Deckard's sister. The script shows her working as an intelligence officer who discovers that Eteon has a mole inside the agency. This means that Hobbs and Shaw can't trust their own handlers anymore. They are truly on their own, with no backup and no official support. This us-against-the-world vibe is what makes the 2026 movie feel so different from the previous ones. They aren't working for the government. They are working to save their own lives. The script describes a massive sequence where the duo is trapped in a skyscraper and has to use experimental wingsuits to escape while being chased by drones. It is the kind of big-screen spectacle that the Fast fans live for, but it feels more dangerous because the tech they are fighting against is so advanced. Finally, this section explores the global stakes. It's not just about one city or one family. The script makes it clear that if Dante and Eteon succeed, they will restart the world in their own image. This gives the movie a sense of urgency. Every minute Hobbs and Shaw spend bickering is a minute closer to global disaster. The writers have included a very emotional scene where Hobbs calls home to Momoa, realizing this might be the last time he speaks to his family. It adds a layer of heart to the movie, reminding the audience that underneath all the muscles and the fast cars, these are men who just want to protect their homes. This sets us up for the final act, where all the players come together for a battle that will decide the fate of the entire Fast universe. The final act of the 2026 script is where all the tension of the last 2 years finally explodes. Everything has been leading to a massive confrontation that bridges the gap between this spin-off and the main saga's grand finale. The setting for this climax is rumored to be a high-stakes, multi-stage battle that moves from the high-tech urban jungle of a major city back to the rugged terrain where Hobbs feels most at home. The script focuses on the idea that Dante Reyes isn't just trying to kill Hobbs and Shaw, he wants to break them. In this section, we see Dante launch a full-scale assault using everything Eteon has left: drones, armored mercenaries, and cybernetic tech. It's a literal war on the streets, but it's the emotional weight that keeps the audience hooked. The core of this finale is a brutal 3-way fight between Hobbs, Shaw, and Dante. Unlike previous movies where the good guys always seem to have a plan, this script makes it feel like they are barely hanging on. The dialogue is stripped back, replaced by the sound of metal crushing and heavy hits. We see Hobbs forced to use his incredible strength in ways we haven't seen since Fast 5, while Shaw utilizes his environment to take down enemies twice his size. There is a specific moment in the script where the two have to perform a synchronized stunt, a callback to their first movie. But this time it's not for a laugh. It's a desperate move to stop a weaponized convoy from reaching a populated area. This section emphasizes that while they are individuals with massive egos, they have finally become a true team. As the smoke clears, the script takes a sharp turn toward the future of the franchise. Just when it seems like Dante has been cornered, a massive revelation occurs that connects back to Dominic Toretto and the main team. The 2026 film doesn't just end with a victory, it ends with a call to arms. We see a final scene where Hobbs looks at a decrypted file left behind by Dante, realizing that the threat is much bigger than one man's revenge. This is the moment where the spin-off officially merges back into the main timeline. The script describes a closing shot of Hobbs picking up his phone to make a call he hasn't made in years, calling Dom to tell him that the final ride is starting now. It's the ultimate teaser that sets the stage for Fast 11. The very end of the movie leaves the audience with a sense of calm before the storm. We see Shaw reunited with his mother, Queenie, and his sister, Hattie, hinting that the Shaw family will play a massive role in the final war. Meanwhile, Hobbs is back in Samoa, standing on the shore, looking out at the horizon, knowing that the peace won't last. The 2026 project is designed to leave fans breathless and desperate for the next chapter. It proves that the Hobbs and Shaw duo is the backbone of the franchise's energy, and their reunion was the missing piece needed to make the ending of the Fast saga truly legendary. By the time the credits roll, the message is clear. The family is back together, and they are ready for one last mission: